There are no laws on the books in either Vermont or New York that actually require landowners to clean up after a meth lab has been discovered. In fact, there's no requirement to remove the hazardous residue that can be left behind and be harmful to the health of both children and adults. And in some cases, as we found out, the toxicity levels can be extremely high.
I wasn't very pleased, that's for sure.
Landlord Linda McDonald says she had no idea that her tenant of 5 years, this man, was cooking meth in the apartment he was renting from her, according to police.
It wasn't until later that they told us it was that, I can't pronounce the word well.
Meth?
Yeah, that stuff. And I didn't know what it was.
New York State troopers raided the Moores, New York apartment in August of 2012. They found a working one-pot meth lab inside the upstairs bathroom. She hasn't been able to rent the place since.
We're getting it ready for a new tenant as quickly as we possibly can.
Do you think you're going to tell the next tenant that the guy before them was cooking meth in here?
I don't think I have to word of mouth to make sure of that.
We asked Linda if we could test the apartment for any meth residue that may have been left behind from the lab. She agreed, and we got to work. Testing both the upstairs and downstairs bathroom, light switches, toilets, countertops, and the shower. The kits we ordered are from Meth Lab Cleanup Company, LLC, and their results are sent to Fort Laboratories and are EPA certified. We got ours within days. The lab says that that number is off the charts in terms of how much meth they found there.
Really?
11.58 micrograms per 100 square centimeters. Don't know what that means? Well, for comparison, many states require or recommend what's known as the California standard, a legal limit of meth residue of 1.5 micrograms per 100 square centimeters. Remember, Linda's were 11.58. The expert we talked to said those readings were extraordinarily high.
The cleanup needs to be taking place before it's safe to go back there.
We showed Dr. Thomas Parody the results. He's the medical director at the Northern New England Poison Control Center.
So absolutely, that's an environmental risk, and I would not recommend anyone be in that same airspace.
He says depending on the levels and exposure length, meth residue can cause high blood pressure and lead to problems with the brain, heart, and kidneys, and more.
It can cause burns, skin burns, inhalational burns. It can injure your lung.
When the New York State Police Drug Task Force members walked into a meth lab crime scene,
this is a full body suit, provides splash protection.
They wear hazmat gear.
We've got self-contained breathing apparatus.
When we asked Sergeant Chad Niles if people should be told there was a meth lab in their home,
oh, absolutely.
Remember, this is what property owner Linda McDonald had to say before we got the test results.
Do you think you're going to tell the next tenant that the guy before them was cooking meth in here?
I don't think I have to word of mouth to make sure of that.
But even after we showed her the results, she still said she wouldn't tell her next renter.
Because I need to rent that doggone place. There's a dead horse to me right now. Nobody's living there, and I've got to get it back on track.
She says she'll clean the place herself, even though state police and poison control experts suggest she consult the health department or call in a professional cleaning company.
Do you realize that this residue can cause health problems?
Yes, I do.
And you still won't call the health department?
No, I won't. My husband got something to remove that with.
To clean it up, you have to
really give it a good scrubbing.
Yep, and you should probably call the health department because just using...
What if I don't?
Well, if you don't, then you probably won't clean up all the meth yourself.
I don't want nothing to do with that stuff.
Even if it means having a safe place to rent?
It'll be a safe place to rent. I guarantee it.
How will you know if you don't consult a professional when you're cleaning?
Like I said, I'm not going to have that problem. I'm not going there. I'm not going to do that. I don't want any more trouble.
But don't you think that you should know, because it's sort of your responsibility as a landlord to know about this?
Something like that? No. I don't want to go there. No.
So we took what we found to somebody who can change things.
I know it's so dangerous that we have all kinds of protocols and requirements.
We showed New York Assemblywoman Janet Dupree a short video we put together.
Initial thoughts after watching this?
Scary. And my second thought, Bridget, is you have certainly uncovered something that very few of us, if any of us, are aware of.
It details the one-pot meth problem in the North Country.
I don't see any potential decrease. I think it will only get worse.
complete with a local landlord, adamant she would not contact a professional to help clean up after one of her tenants was arrested for having a meth lab inside his apartment.
Will you get in touch with the health department to talk to them about what you need to do to make it safe?
No,
Why not?
because I need to rent that doggone place. There's a dead horse to me right now. Nobody's living there, and I've got to get it back on track.
Then we showed her News Channel 5's test results from inside that apartment.
We went in and we tested, we swabbed in the bathroom, and the meth lab was found in the upstairs bathroom. And so this is the end result here.
They're EPA certified, and according to the lab, the meth residue levels are incredibly high, more than 7 times the legal limit in some states.
After everything was supposedly clean and it's off the charts, then,
Right.
you know, we have a really huge issue here. And again, in an upstairs bathroom where the next family that moves in could put a child in the bathtub.
News Channel 5 also checked in with the Clinton County Health Department, the New York State Health Department, and the Vermont Department of Health. All 3 agencies said they had no guidelines for property owners looking for advice regarding meth residue and cleanup.
So they don't have they don't do this testing?
No, they don't do that testing.
When we asked Vermont and New York State troopers about meth residue cleanup, both told us they remove evidence in any remaining parts of the lab, but do not do any cleaning, and neither does the Department of Environmental Conservation. They told News Channel 5 they only remove hazardous materials as directed by state police. We did find some cleanup guidelines on the Environmental Protection Agency's website, but those are only voluntary.
We certainly need to think about the long-term health effects on the next person who would walk into an apartment or a home. They should be able to know that it's safe and that it's been cleaned appropriately.
There are some federal laws in place, but they don't concern cleanup either. These laws limit how much pseudoephedrine you can buy at the pharmacy. The cold medicine is a key ingredient for any meth lab. That's why when you buy a box of Sudafed,
This is the pseudoephedrine log.
you have to show ID and sign for it.
The DEA will come by once every, not an ounce, but they'll come by. They definitely do come by, and an agent will go through the logs. And they're basically looking for repeat purchases.
The daily limit is roughly 1 box of Sudafed, but over the course of a month, you can buy up to 3 of them. Here's the problem, though. A one-pot meth recipe needs only a box or 2 to actually get cooking. And depending how much pseudoephedrine is actually in your medication, you could need even less than that.
You know, I think we're just scratching the surface of what we need to peel the onion sort of thing and go down the layers to find out exactly where we go.
Assemblywoman Dupree says her biggest concern is the health problems that can be caused by meth residue.
This is something you're going to bring back with you to Albany.
Oh, absolutely. You've given me some contacts with the labs, and I will certainly reach out and talk to them about what we should be looking for in the criteria, because when we do a bill, we want to do it right.
Dupree says she's hoping to get some sort of legislation in play this session.
You may be talking $175 to $200 per tooth. And sometimes these things are surgical, which involves a bit more.
And you're paying for it.
This is typically what you'll see with meth mouth, where the teeth are just broken. These are just root tips.
Usually by the time Dr. Michael Boulay sees a meth inmate from the Clinton County Jail, their teeth are infected beyond repair.
You're not dealing with 2, 3 teeth, you're dealing with 12, 13, 14 teeth.
The homemade chemical concoction known as crank, glass, or crystal can erode teeth. When a user smokes, those chemicals inhibit saliva production and make it hard for teeth to stay clean. Often, by the time someone gets to Dr. Boulay, the teeth have to be pulled.
Typically with the sheriff's department, you have to pinpoint which is the worst problem today and just focus on that. And many times you'll see them again.
Dental costs for the Clinton County Sheriff's Department have nearly doubled in 2 years.
It's gotten outrageous over the last couple of years.
And there's more. Clinton County Sheriff Dave Favreau tells News Channel 5 some users are now injecting the drug, contributing to medical budgets that are up across the board, from general health to prescriptions. There are withdrawals, ER visits, gastrointestinal issues, vision problems, severe cases of depression, and those major dental problems, all of which we're paying for.
Now you're having medical care that the average person would not be getting because of the meth that's deteriorating different components of their body.
Take a look at these before and after pictures of meth users. It really gives you an idea of what the chemicals can do to your body over just the course of a couple of years. Experts call this a rapid aging process. It can make somebody in their mid-20s look closer to their mid-40s. And this is just the damage you can see.
And if you can see it on the outside, I think it's only common sense to be able to deduce that something bad is happening to the inside of the body as well.
And it doesn't end there. Meth is so new to the area that both Vermont and New York State Police are just beginning to track the expenses associated with the drug.
I don't have exact figures, but each meth lab costs taxpayers thousands of dollars. You know, that is a concern of ours because every time we find one, it does involve a huge response.
Vermont state troopers agree, estimating their costs are between $5,000 and $8,000 per lab. Adding that for most responses, it's fair to say a quarter, if not half of the troopers responding are being paid overtime.
So every time we go into one of these, it's a hazardous environment.
And then there's the bomb squad and the hazmat team.
The average number of hours we spent on scene has been around 8 to 10 hours. And so it costs anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 per meth lab for the hazmat team to respond.
That brings us up to $7,000 to $11,000 per lab. And this is only the beginning. Law enforcement officers in both Vermont and New York say they only expect the problem to get worse. And that means more expensive, too.
It's hard to know what the future is going to bring. I can tell you if we start to see a dramatic increase, we'll be sitting down, figuring out, are we going to be able to do this? And if not, what do we do? How do we get more funds to make sure we continue to be operational?
Cost effectiveness is basically it's a runaway train.
A sentiment echoed by everyone working to deal with and pay for all levels of a rapidly growing problem.
I see it all the time now where everybody that seems to be coming in is in this shape.
Another cost for all of this, training. First responders are being educated to help better combat the problem, including volunteer firefighters who are often brought in when one of these hazardous and potentially explosive labs are discovered.
Now, I understand that since you started your Meth Menace series, there's been a lot more training going on, huh?
There has actually been a lot of training across the region. The Vermont Department of Health very recently educated some of their employees in Middlebury and actually showed our February Meth Menace series to those people who came in to get educated. Meth is made solely from an explosive concoction of household chemicals. Even its residue can be harmful to children and adults. So just imagine what it can do when it's intentionally inhaled or injected. As one recovering addict tells us, he lost his friends, his job, and his mind.
It's the type of drug that will take things over.
And it's the kind of drug that can ruin lives, as this recovering meth addict tells us. We'll call him John for this story. He asked us to conceal his identity, not because he's ashamed of what he's done and where he's been, but because he doesn't want to put his family through any more pain.
It's almost like a blackout. So I remember bits and pieces, but for them it's the hardest because they're the ones who are, you know, in their right mind and watching the whole thing, hoping that I'll come back in some way.
John's from a small farm town in Vermont, but didn't try meth until he moved to the Midwest several years ago.
I don't know that I was necessarily like addicted the first time, but I know that I liked it and it felt good.
That made the second time easy, and the third time even easier. Eventually snorting it wasn't good enough, so he started shooting it up, going on benders at clubs and raves, not sleeping for several days on end. And then the delusion set in.
When I started really going crazy and I was, you know, losing it completely, I thought that like everybody's watching. I thought there was cameras and everything. I thought the government was after me.
He lost his job, his friends, and his grasp on reality.
I don't even really remember what happened. I just know that I called the police, I called the hospital and was frantic about something. And, you know, obviously I was just to the point of complete psychosis, and they came and they took me away and put me in a psych ward for a month.
Just bizarre thoughts that that don't bear any relationship to reality.
It's that psychotic state that Bill Young says is typical to all meth addicts. He's the executive director at Maple Leaf Farm, a substance abuse treatment center in Underhill.
The most important thing is that the public, and particularly our young folks, understand how dangerous it is.
Those at Maple Leaf Farm say the number of meth addicts they've treated over the years has remained fairly steady, and they're hoping it stays that way. They say that's because meth, in some ways, is more dangerous than other drugs because of how quickly it can deteriorate you, both mentally and physically.
When you understand how dangerous it is in so many ways, it makes you wonder, why would anybody even get involved? You know, not only in using it, but in making it.
But for every user, there is treatment, and John finally got his. He moved home to Vermont, got clean, and repaired his bond with his family. And he's sharing his story so no one has to go through what he did.
I can't believe how easy it is to access and, you know, to get and do here, you know, outside of Vermont is this quaint little place.